They don't want you to know about this in the United States of 2023. A dire situation is unfolding, and both citizens and immigrants are awakening to the grim reality of the American dream. The rising cost of living, exacerbated by a surge in immigration, has trapped countless Americans in a relentless cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, with no hope of retirement. Shockingly, credit card and household debt have skyrocketed to unprecedented levels, and even the middle class is unable to afford essential childcare services. Today, we'll delve into the alarming issues that are mercilessly eroding the American dream, beginning with the childcare crisis. The sector is in dire straits due to severe shortages in its workforce, driving prices to exorbitant heights. This predicament was further exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, as many child care health centers were forced to close their doors, leaving the few that remained to jack up their prices to stay afloat. Currently, access to child care services is a luxury that escapes the grasp of the middle class, with statistics revealing that approximately 67% of parents allocate more than 20% of their household income to these services. This is an alarming statistic, especially when the federal government's definition of affordable child care sets the bar at 7% or less of a parent's annual household income. Shockingly, the average cost of providing childcare for infants now stands at a staggering $1,200 per month. President Biden did sign an executive order in an attempt to bring some semblance of sanity to these skyrocketing prices. However, it falls far short of the lofty $220 billion he pledged to allocate for child care services at the beginning of his term. But the grim reality doesn't end there. Healthcare costs for adults have also spiraled out of control. For a family of 4, annual healthcare expenses have surged from $28,300 to an eye-watering $31,500. Individuals have seen their costs escalate from $647 in 2021, which was a pandemic-ridden year, to an astonishing $7,200 in 2023, marking a staggering 12% increase. These costs are expected to continue their relentless rise by an additional 5%. The American dream is hanging by a thread as these crises continue to escalate, all while the powers that be fail to address the root causes of these issues. Stay tuned as we uncover more startling revelations about the state of the nation that they don't want you to know about. In 2023, many things are making the American healthcare system face some big problems. There's a 6% increase from 2022 to 2023, plus 40% of American adults have some kind of medical debt. And that's not even talking about other issues like the job market getting smaller, prices going up a lot, labor costs rising, and some states not having enough healthcare facilities. One of the hardest truths about the American dream is that students in the USA are stuck paying off loans for their entire lives. In 2023, the total student loan debt in America is a massive $1.7 trillion. That's 1.25% higher than it was in the second quarter of 2022. Just in one school year, students and parents borrowed about $95 billion. President Biden tried to reduce the loan amount of the loan forgiveness plan, but the Senate stopped it. The new plan would forgive about $9 billion in loan debt, but that's way less than the $430 billion that Biden's original plan would have forgiven. Student loans are a big problem in the US. 55% of people who graduate from private colleges end up with loan debts, and 53% of public college grads have debts too. And it's not getting any better. On top of student loans, they now have to deal with credit card debt. In the second quarter of 2023, the total credit card debt across the country went over $1 trillion, which is almost $100 billion more than before. What's even scarier is that when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to control inflation, credit card interest rates go up too. In 2023, there were more than 578 million credit card accounts in America. And when interest rates go up, it makes it even harder for people to pay off their credit card debts. In 2023, things are getting more expensive. Prices are going up by about 2% from 2022. When more people have accounts, they end up with more debt. This happens because interest rates are increased to control inflation. Inflation is when the cost of living goes up, like food, education, groceries, and bills. For example, food prices are expected to go up in 2023. Since August 2023, the cost of all food items has gone up by 4.3% compared to August 2022. The prices for all kinds of things are rising fast, and it's affecting the economy. The current inflation in America is much higher than usual, and when it goes up, everything else becomes more expensive too. Even going to school is becoming pricier. Tuition and fees at public colleges went up by 1.4% for out-of-state students and 2% for in-state students in 2023. At private colleges, the average cost increased by nearly 5%. To put this in perspective, an average American saving $5,000 per year would have to save for about 75 years to afford to send one child to a top-rated U.S. college. That's a lot of years to save for college when some people struggle to find a place to live. On top of that, there's a concerning report that the Department of Housing and Urban Development recorded over 582,000 homeless Americans in 2022, which is about 2,000 more than in 2020. This is a big problem, especially in places like California and New York. It's happening because owning a home is becoming too expensive for many people. In June 2023, the average cost of an existing home was rising. The cost of living in America is very high and it's getting worse. The price of a typical home is almost at its highest point ever, nearly $410,000. This is after 10 years of prices going up year after year. There's a big problem in New York with a lot of migrants, and we'll talk about that more. But the main issue is that American workers are facing a lot of problems. The American dream promises that the USA is a land of opportunity where middle-class workers can have control over their future and enjoy a good life. However, it's not happening, and the American dream is fading away. Around 108 million Americans are stuck in a tough situation. They earn about $55,000 per year, and more than 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. This includes people who make less than $50,000 a month, and 62% of people earning between $10,000 and $50,000 a month. One of the main reasons for this is that the minimum wage in America hasn't increased enough. The federal minimum wage is only $7.25 and hasn't changed since 2009. While some states set higher minimum wages, it's still not keeping up with the rising cost of living. Many people can't save for emergencies because they have to use their money for everyday needs. A survey found that only 9% of Americans have enough savings to cover 7 months of expenses for emergencies. Only 14% have savings to cover up to 3 months of expenses. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. These numbers are worrying because they show that most people can't handle a big emergency expense. About 57% of American adults can't afford an $11,000 emergency expense, and less than half have enough savings to cover 3 months of living expenses. Retirement is also a big problem. After working for many years, you'd expect to have enough money to retire comfortably. But with the high cost of living, inflation, low wages, and housing costs, it's becoming very unlikely. In 2023, the government is giving out over $1 trillion in Social Security benefits, but about 40% of working Americans are worried about retirement. Only 30% of people aged 18 to 29 think they are saving enough to retire comfortably. In 2023, the American dream is in trouble. It's getting harder to find good jobs with good pay, and it's almost impossible to afford the basics. If the government and people in power don't take action, things could get even worse.